Hello and welcome to today's video. Today we are here, and it's another episode of the Racing Debrief, and it's also another week of Ross Chastain incidents. So, let's jump into it right here, right now. So, this was the final week of the NASCAR 75 Greatest Driver list. Of course, we got our NASCAR 75, our 75th anniversary shirt on today. I felt like it was appropriate for Throwback weekend. To pull up something like that. So, 4 drivers this week. Of course, last week we had 6. 4 drivers: Kevin Harvick, Joey Logano, Matt Kenseth, and Jimmy Johnson. We kind of knew it going into this week. Of course, we were discussing that. But let's pull up these drivers. Of course, first up, Kevin Harvick. And, I got my Kevin Harvick hat on. My favorite driver all time, number 1 on the list. Kevin Harvick and Tony Stewart, again, have been my favorite driver since I was little. So, if you follow me on Instagram or Twitter, you've seen the picture of me standing next to the 29 car from 2001. It's just been, since I was really little. I've been a Kevin Harvick fan, so to see him on the top 75 list was super, super cool. Of course, let's jump into some of those stats. Not necessarily the driver I need to look up the stats for. Of course, champion in 2014 in the Cup Series and the Busch Series champion. Of course, it was Busch Series at the time. 2001, 2006. 60 Cup wins. Right there. 2007, Daytona 500, Brickyard multiple times, 2003, 2004, something like that. 2020 as well. Southern 500, which I believe is 2014 and 2020. Coke 600 in 2011. So, all of those right there. Let me now go to the internets, see how many Xfinity wins, though. See if I missed anything else in there. 2013 Coke 600. I missed that one. That's the only crown jewel that I missed was that year. Oh, and Brickyard 2019. So 19 and 20. Okay. I thought he had 3. Okay. Xfinity Series is 47 wins. I would have probably been a little off of it, I guessed, on that. I was going to say about probably 40. I don't know. I know he's got pretty good wins on that. And then the Truck Series, 14 wins. So, again, all those stats. The only driver I go through and pretty much list all the crown jewels. I missed, 1 Brickyard win and 1 Coke 600 win. Like, everything else we went through. Kevin Harvick, obviously very deserving to be on that list. Next up is Joey Logano, the 2018 and 2020 champion. I believe, let's see how many wins he has. I'm not even going to try to guess. 32, okay. 32 wins, 30 Xfinity wins, 2 truck wins. So, let's see. Achievements for Joey Logano, 2015 Daytona 500. And that's his only crown jewel? Really? I would have thought Joey Logano got some other crown jewel. That's wild to me. He is the first driver to sweep a round of the playoffs. So that's cool if you're into the playoffs. Charlotte, Kansas, and Talladega sweeping that. So that's cool. Two-time Cup Series champion. Get a Connecticut driver on the list. That's cool. Not personally a fan of Joey Logano, but, we're from the same state, so that's cool. That's a cool factor, I guess, in that. But I don't really care at the same time. But again, Connecticut driver. Shout out. All right, next up we have Matt Kenseth, the 2003 champion. I believe 2-time Daytona 500 winner. Yes, 2009 and 2012. Also the 2000 Coke 600 winner and the 2013 Southern 500. And also the 2000 Cup Series Rookie of the Year. And Hall of Famer in 2023. Of course, the other drivers not in the Hall of Fame because they're not eligible because they're still racing. 39 wins in the Cup Series, 29 in the Xfinity Series, and 1 Pinty's. What the hell is a Pinty Series? Oh, it's in Canada. Okay, I thought it was going to be trucks, so I started with 1 win. Pinty Series win. That's cool. He's done 1 race with 1 win. But yeah, again, Matt Kenseth's the champion. Every champion ever is on that list. So, that's cool. It says he is the last driver to compete in 1 race in 4 consecutive decades, 90s, 2000s, 2010s, and 2020s. That's a cool stat. And then next up, finally, is Jimmie Johnson. Now, Jimmie Johnson basically did all of his stats from the Cup Series. He was not really good outside of Cup, but within the Cup Series, 7 championships, 5 consecutively from 2006 to 2010, and also 2013 and 2016. Also, the winner of the Daytona 500 in 2006 and 2013. 4 Coke 600 wins, 2003, 2004, 2005, and 2014. And 4 Brickyard 400 wins, 2006, 2008, 9, and 12. Southern 500 in 2004 and 2012. He also has 11 wins at Dover, which is absolutely insane. Most wins at that track. And this goes through lists of sweeps that he's had at tracks, including 8 wins at Charlotte, including sweeps in 2004, 2005, Texas, including sweeps in 2015, and 5 of those wins being chase wins, and then sweeps in Martinsville in 2007, 6 and 8, and winning the chase in 2012 and 2016. Absolutely killed it in the chase, and dominated in every format of that. Dominated Charlotte, coincidentally at the time that it was sponsored by Lowe's, so shout out to potentially rigging that. But when the track was Lowe's Motor Speedway, he absolutely killed it there in the Lowe's car. 83 wins in the Cup Series. Again, 7 championships. 2006, 2007, 2008, 2009, 2010, 2013, 2016. Of course, the only driver to win 5 in a row. And on top of all these impressive stats, he has 1 win in the Xfinity Series. So that's cool. His stats in Xfinity are complete trash. And he did 1 truck race, which he did not win. So there's that. Of course, now he's a team owner, and we'll see Jimmie Johnson around for a while. So there's no arguing Jimmie Johnson not being on this list. I mean, Jimmie Johnson is gonna be, ranked very highly within NASCAR. Right, you easily put him top 5. I'd probably put him as my 4th driver on the list of top 5. So, yeah. There you go. Jimmie Johnson, easily on this list. And of course, he will be a Hall of Famer when he's eligible, which I believe should be 2024. So, let's go back and discuss some other stuff. Overall, my reaction to the top 75 list. I mean, again, if NASCAR wants to put those drivers on the top 75 list, I'm not going to argue with it. I think that they know who deserves to be on their list of the greatest drivers in the sport. And I don't really think there's many arguments of drivers that you would put on or wouldn't put on. Again, they're in a box of guys that you maybe say were on the top 50 that you wouldn't necessarily put on top 75 with the drivers that earned it in the last 25 years, but they're not going to take drivers off. This is not a precedent that's been set in these lists from sports. I mean, you've seen it with NBA. They had, basketball players that probably should have been on top 75. Klay Thompson, a noticeable player that should have been on the NBA list, but wasn't, because there's probably some players on the 50 list that probably wouldn't make the top 75 if they just did it from scratch. So it's the same idea. I think there's drivers on the 50 that you would look at and say, maybe these guys aren't top 75 list. But again, got to keep the 50, got to put 25 more. And I think their new 25 additions, not bad. And again, it was cool to see at Darlington and see some of the pictures. I didn't really get to watch the pre-race like I'd wanted to. But, seeing the pictures of some of the drivers there for the race today are super, super awesome. It's really cool to see everybody that's on that list that was there, together. Very, very cool. On that note, of course, the commentary throughout the race, having different drivers in there. Richard Petty, Kyle Petty in the first stage. Carl Edwards coming back. That was super, super cool. My mom was very excited about that. She has always been a Carl Edwards fan, so seeing him kind of back since he retired in 2017, she was very excited about that. So that was cool. And then Bill Elliott at the end. So we'll get into that race because there's a lot to unpack, especially at the end of that Cup race. But first, the truck race. I kind of forgot about the truck race. Who even won? Oh, Christian Eckes. He kind of dominated the whole thing. The trucks, for me, I don't know. They feel like they've fallen off a little bit in my interest, if I'm quite honest with you. I didn't really watch the first, 30 laps, kind of in my room. It's just something that, for me, they're cool to watch, but they kind of just turn into 17 or 18-year-olds crashing each other a lot of times. So there's elements to it that I've struggled to get into it this season, I'll be honest. So a lot of times when the trucks come, I'm kind of like, that happened. There's not moments that I'm like, damn, we got to talk about that. Xfinity Cup provided a lot of excitement for me personally in the last few weeks. So to Xfinity, we got the finish of that race. John Hunter Nemechek, Kyle Larson. What a battle at the end. Kyle Larson was getting him. Getting a Nemechek, and it was one of those things you see. He was coming up. He was getting closer. The car was just working for him. Got to Nemechek, and they were going to have something happen. And, they did. A few times in the wall there, Nemechek tried to get him. You could see him going into 3. He tried to spin Larson out. Larson was able to, hang on to it. And then you go into that last little bit. Nemechek's on the bottom. Larson bounces off the wall. Nemechek looks like he's kind of moving up, kind of trying to keep his spot. Larson bounces off the wall, straight into him. Nemechek spins around, finishes 4th. Kyle Larson gets a win at Darlington finally. Never won there in Xfinity or in Cup. So that was cool to see that. And, I think that was a brilliant finish. Overall, the Xfinity race, very, very good. Along with the Cup race, which we'll dive into right now. And again, we'll talk about Kyle Larson, but more, we're going to talk about Ross Chastain for the 4th week in a row. We talked about him after Talladega. We talked about him after Dover. We talked about him after Kansas. And now we're going to talk about him after Darlington. Ross Chastain's in a spot where he's continued to make headlines. He's made headlines all last year, whether it was incidents on track, riding the wall at Martinsville, and he's continuing this year, making headlines for driving into people. Chastain is one of those guys that is going to hit into you on the track. And in that moment, on that restart, Larson knew he was on the bottom. He moved up into Chastain. They had a little bit of contact, just trying to, hold him up there. You're on that bottom. It's not a great spot. Chastain probably jumped the start and got away with it. But, again, we don't do jumped restarts anymore, apparently. I have not seen a penalty for a jumped restart in a while. Now I've said it, we'll probably see it next week. But I've not seen a penalty for that in quite a while. Since they've sort of messed with the restart rules a few years ago. But yeah, that was, part of what happened there. And then there was a crash behind him. Truex spun or everybody crashed. I don't even know. So again, Larson, Chastain. Chastain had the lead that time. And it was the opposite. Chastain on the bottom. and he just moved up into Larson, and they were crashing. He does this all the time. Not surprising. You've got to just expect it's going to happen. And I think he needs to get punched. I really do. I don't really want to sit here on YouTube and say, hey, this guy should get punched while I'm behind a camera, because that just seems kind of lame. But I just feel like drivers have to do something about it, and we either got to have somebody take him out and let him know, again, this is dumb, because nobody has. He always just seems to either crash himself into the incident or ruin somebody else's day and be fine. And in this one, he crashed in it, but took somebody out with him. So he has to be the one receiving the crash. Somebody's got to spin him out. I think, Hamlin putting him in the wall at Pocono didn't send that message as much as it would have maybe been nice to see, because he's one of these guys that he's not a rookie. He's raced in NASCAR in multiple levels for years. This isn't a guy that's new. He's not, I've came up through Truck, Xfinity, and Cup in 3 years. He's not a Cup Series rookie. He's not Ty Gibbs or Noah Gragson, who, if they were doing this, you'd be like, okay, they're rookies. They're kind of inexperienced in this series. They're not doing these mistakes. It's not those two. It's a guy that's been around for years. I'm kind of curious at when his first start even was, because I feel like I've seen clips of him at least close to 10 years in this. Yeah, his first start in the trucks was 2011. First Xfinity race was 2014. First Cup race was 2017. So, again, he's been doing this and racing in Cup since 2017. He's been racing in NASCAR overall in the top 3 levels since 2011. And quite frankly, he's just driving through people, and it's a bit ridiculous. I think that he's one of those guys that he's not a young driver that's going to learn how to improve. I think that he just is going to continue to do this. And honestly, he's going to get crashed for it, and I feel it's going to happen soon. There's an interview with Rick Hendrick talking about how he's not happy with, this, and he told Chevy, he's like, I don't care if he drives a Chevy, we're not going to just, lay over for him. We're not going to just race him differently because in the Chevy, I'm a driver to be aggressive. And, he's especially with Kyle Larson, Kyle Larson's not this guy that's necessarily somebody you think of going out here and being aggressive, but I feel like you can see him get into a spot where he gets pushed into that scenario. I think that, you've seen that with drivers that you don't expect to be aggressive. Like, look at something, like Chase Elliott. He's the driver that you don't necessarily expect to be aggressive and pushing people, but there are moments that he's been pushed to those scenarios. He had his moments with Kevin Harvick in 2020. They had issues with each other at Bristol, Charlotte Road Course. Like, those moments you've seen something like Chase Elliott, who normally would get pushed around. Denny Hamlin in 2017, it was the same idea. Chase Elliott's a guy you wouldn't expect to just come out here and have an incident, but Denny Hamlin spun him at Martinsville, and he said, nah, you're not winning at Phoenix. You're not advancing to the championship. You're done in this round. So, I could see Kyle Larson at that point. Because, it's not a one-time thing. Because in this 4-race stretch, Kyle Larson has been on the receiving end of Ross Chastain incompetence 3 times. Talladega, what was the other race? Dover, and now again at Darlington. 3 of the 4 weeks, and also you think in there, Larson had a great year outside of those 3 wins. He had a lot of situations where he could have won more races than didn't. So I think he'll get to a point, maybe he'll be the one that's like, nah, dude, you're not going to continue this, whether they fight in the pits. I don't think Kyle Larson's the type of guy. I think on the track, though, he may make a move that says, you're done. You're not winning this race. You're crashing. It's over. And I think that someone needs to do it. And if Kyle Larson does it, I'm all for it. I like the rivalry, and don't get me wrong, I find Chastain to be quite annoying continuously doing it. But it is that excitement. It adds excitement to these videos, adds excitement to watching the race. What kind of dumb shit is he going to do? Alright, so the final thing, Darlington overall, again, we talked about the broadcast, drivers and that, it was brilliant. We talked about, some of these other situations. William Byron got a win. Awesome throwback. Probably my favorite of the weekend. Um, yeah, I really like that 24 car throwback to the 24 car from 1998 that had the 50th anniversary on it. So really cool to see the 75th anniversary stuff on cars. I'm a big fan of 75th anniversary stuff. I got a few things around. We got 75th anniversary logo up there. We got a banner over here with all the NASCAR logos on it. I got the shirt, which is also cool because we have a 50th anniversary flag hanging up down here. So really, really cool to see that. I love the history of things. So the history of my favorite sport being shown and celebrated throughout a whole season is so awesome. I love what they're doing for the 75th anniversary. And to see that sort of celebrated really full on at Darlington. And of course, you're going to see more of it next week at North Wilkesboro. Oh, I'm so excited for North Wilkesboro. I cannot believe that we're sitting here saying next week is North Wilkesboro. That's not something that I thought I'd say on this channel. Next week, we're talking about North Wilkesboro racing. Oh my god, that's so cool. I've personally been like, saying North Wilkesboro coming back would be so cool. Really talking about that and discussing that for a few years. I think that it's been something that a trailer that should never been abandoned, and to see that be in a situation where it's coming back, it's being revived, it's gonna be the All-Star race. Because watching an iRacing in 2020, when they were doing the iRacing, when COVID pandemic was going on, it was so awesome to see an alt track like that, and it had a feeling this will be the only time we're going to see North Wilkesboro race. For me, because North Wilkesboro had already not had races for 4 years by the time I was born, or it's going on to its 4th year of not racing in 1999. So it's one of those things I thought the only way I'm going to see North Wilkesboro is iRacing, but here it is, and I'm so thrilled. And yeah, we're ready. We're ready. So that is that. Let's jump a little bit, dive slightly here into our F1 portion. Not much to really talk about again. The weeks F1 doesn't have races. There's not a high amount to talk about, especially these times when it's not summer break, when it's silly season. We'll get into that probably in August, it'll be a little bit more. But F1, a few things. Nick DeVries apparently is on the hot seat. There's different rumors coming out that Nick DeVries could be potentially out at AlphaTauri with no points. There's potential that that's just not true. There's potential that Red Bull would put other drivers in there. Liam Lawson, Daniel Ricciardo's been mentioned. Very far out shot of that. It really depends on your contract, if it's with Red Bull or if it's with the teams. Normally it's just Red Bull, and they can put you in either team that they want. If you're in AlphaTauri and you do really well, they can put you in the top team. If you're in the top team not doing well, they can put you down, as we've seen with Pierre Gasly in 2019, swapping with Alex Albon, moving the two, or even back in 2016, Daniel Kvyat getting switched with Max Verstappen. So that's the thing, but the rumors of Daniel Ricciardo's contract is just with Red Bull Racing F1 team and not Red Bull as a whole company. A little weird, but I guess that's that. But Liam Lawson could take that spot. I think Nick DeVries, it's interesting. I don't think he's performed well. I think that he should get a little more time. But again, he's done enough racing that you should be doing well. And Yuki Tsunoda's not like he's struggling. If Yuki Tsunoda was down here getting 1 point, but Yuki Tsunoda's getting points consistently in a good spot. I mean, AlphaTauri is not a great team. Let's see how many points AlphaTauri has, or Yuki Tsunoda has, I guess we should say. That's the wrong sport. That's the NASCAR app. F1. So yeah, I mean, I don't know if he should get removed. I don't think we're at a point of that yet, but let's see what Yuki Tsunoda's got for points. Yuki Tsunoda's only got 2. Like, it's not like he's killing it. I mean, his results, he's definitely been close to the top 10, though, where Nick DeVries really has. So I can see it going either way. I think that if he doesn't have points, I wouldn't say by Spain. That seems a bit harsh, because Spain's in like 2 weeks. So it's pretty much do good at Imola or you're out. And I think Monaco maybe. I don't know if it's Monaco. Yeah. Monaco's in 2 weeks. So you have Imola and Monaco. and then you have to be scoring points. I don't know about that. Next up, we have the Miami Grand Prix food prices, which were absolutely wild, and some of the rumored to be going around photos look like the food wasn't great. But I'm not surprised. I mean, Miami's a whole glamour event anyways, so are we really shocked that it was however much hundreds of dollars for a salad in some of the expensive VIP areas? Not really. I'm not really shocked that the merchandise is expensive. The Red Bull hat that I'm sometimes wearing in videos, just the basic 2023 Max Verstappen hat, $100, close to it, $80, whatever it was. Not really surprised. The last thing is Alpine been called out by their CEO to step their shit up. I don't know if that's the best route to go publicly. I feel like if you're the CEO of a company and you think things need to be changed, you have to do what's best for your company and say, hey, things have to change. But I don't know if publicly calling out your team, calling out your company is the best route to go. I feel like if you're working for a company, no matter at any level that you're at, if the CEO comes out and says, hey guys, we gotta step our shit up, that'd be a bit tough. So, if you're a mechanic, you're building the car, you're the driver, you're the team principal, any of that, and your CEO is just like, you're trash, be better. I don't know. I wouldn't say publicly is the best route to go with that, basically is what I'm saying. We'll see what happens, but I don't think that's the route to go. Apparently Otmar is the dude that like, you may be gone, which it just seems like whatever team Otmar's at, he gets yeeted from. So there's that. But either way, thank you for watching. Hope you guys enjoyed, and we'll see you guys next week for both F1 and NASCAR. We have Imola for F1, and of course for NASCAR, it's North Wilkesboro. Oh boy. So excited. Alright, we'll see you guys next week.